So very insightful presentation from the World Tourism Travel Council. They were also speakers of ours in our last year's virtual conference, and the information they share is always something that we can use as tourist guides and prepare moving forward. So thank you for that. Our next speakers, we have one in person and one virtually. We have David Noack Perez, Director of the Madrid Convention Bureau. He is with us in person. So David, if you could join us. And then online, we have Lesley Williams from Best Cities. So as an international association, we were very much privileged to be part of the Best Cities Association hosting session last year, towards the end of last year, here in Madrid. And this is where we made contact with the Madrid Convention Bureau. They've been very helpful in us allowing us to set up this hub in Madrid for our hybrid convention. They've been very supportive. And the team at Best Cities, one of their conversation pieces and one of their ambitions is, goes around legacy. And as associations, we know we've been in existence for 35 plus years, but it's those legacies as associations that we always need to keep in mind as well. And as Adolfo also alluded, it's so important that we work with destinations in the future of tourism. So those collaborations really do drive us as international associations and how we work in the different destinations as tourist guides as well. So David and Lesley are going to present to you very interesting case study and how we can move forward in the legacy field of things as associations. So David, I hand over to you, and we have Lesley. Hi, Lesley.
Hello, nice to see you all.
Welcome.
Shall I share my screen at this point? Is that the
I'll
best?
hand over to you and David. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just put this on slideshow. Can you see that? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for the opportunity to present to you today. Thank you, Alushka. Before we start, I wanted to just give a brief explanation. Now, if I can just get rid of this and then I don't hide. A quick introduction to Best Cities. We're an alliance of 11 international meeting destinations, and the nuts and bolts of it, we collaborate to attract international associations to our destinations. We're not as old as World Travel and Tourism Council, but we began in 2000, so we're over 20 years old. And this is our purpose. And basically what we're saying is we want to ensure that meetings and business events leave a positive impact on a destination, whether it's societal, economic, political, environmental. So as an alliance, we aim to support associations to help them move closer to their mission by setting meeting outcomes that will contribute to that aim. So we work in tandem to benefit both the association and the destination, and at the same time create a positive impact for residents and citizens of the destination where the conference is being held. So how do we define legacy? We look at it as it's the long-term impacts which a meeting has on wider society. This is how we define it as Best Cities. And it's often confused with meeting outcomes. Meeting outcomes tend to be quite short-term in nature. And an example would be perhaps a transplant conference coming to a city. They want to increase awareness and get locals to sign up to the transplant register. The meeting outcome would be the number of people that have signed up, but the long-term legacy would be the number of lives that are saved because there are more organs available. And meeting legacies, they don't need to be huge, they don't need to be life-changing. They can be quite organizational in nature. And when you think, it could be something like encouraging a younger generation to join a particular profession. And if we've just heard, the pandemic has had a huge effect on tourism overall. So a goal around our industry could be how we rebuild the profession, how we attract people back into the industry, attract people back to traveling through the stories that tourist guides bring destinations to life. So a key part of Best Cities is our advocacy around legacy. And when we held our global forum in Madrid just at the end of the year, we created what we called the Madrid Challenge. We really felt, now is the time to focus on what really matters. And at the Madrid Challenge, we had all our partner destinations signed up to what we called the Best Cities Commitment to a Sustainable Future. And this was our newly revised standards for the Alliance, which has really put legacy and sustainability right at the heart. And these are standards that each partner destination has to sign up to be part of the Alliance. But we wanted to take it one stage further, and we wanted to ask our guest associations, how can they integrate sustainability and legacy into future conference planning? So they were invited to a feedback and a brainstorm session to help us shape the Madrid Challenge and identify what actions could be taken. We needed to understand what are the challenges in persuading associations and destinations to incorporate legacy and sustainability into their strategy. What actions could we as Best Cities and as partner destinations, as CVBs, what can we do to support? And these were some of the challenges and actions that came up. The first thing was understanding legacy. Legacy means different things to different people. There's no common language around legacy. A few of the associations said, well, it's really changing the mindset in a particular association and making the business case for the long term. Sometimes associations were saying they can be quite short term in nature, partly because maybe, boards are elected every 2 years, every 3 years. So it's making the business case for the long term. Resources came up. Again, everybody's been hit by the pandemic. We've lost members, we've lost staff, we've lost income. So there's a lack of resource, and perhaps financial stability is seen as the more important element right now over social good. That came out. And then the measurement of impact. Okay, this is great. You come to a destination and you do some great stuff. How do you measure that impact in the long term? That was one of the other challenges that came up. But the actions that came out were great. And these are just some of the key ones that came out. And a lot of it was around education, educating local stakeholders, associations, destinations, empowering local members, local institutions around legacy and to think about legacy in the long term. We and it's something that Best Cities are only too aware of, as an industry, a business events industry, we need to be able to communicate our story better, to provide examples that can inspire others, that can help others understand the impact that their meetings can have on a destination when they visit with their conference. Case studies obviously are absolutely key, and we as Best Cities collaborate with ICA and run the Incredible Impacts program. And this is an opportunity. We give out 3 grants of $7,500 to associations who have legacy as part of their conference or have a particular legacy project. And then establishing a network with stakeholders, government and members to facilitate legacy. So these were some of the actions that we're taking forward as an alliance and as individual convention bureaus. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cough here. I thought I could get to the end of the presentation, but I haven't. So I thought, okay, well, what could you as a federation do? What things could you consider? And, thinking about your mission when planning your conference, I read about your mission. It's very much about high standards of training. It's about ethics. And it's, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, I could think that this is even more important to make sure that we're building an industry that is truly professional. So how can the conference, wherever you take your conference, how can that help drive towards that mission, whether it's training local people. I mean, the great thing about having international conferences in a destination is the locals can attend because it's on their doorstep and they're not having to travel to attend. How could the conference, how could it contribute to your mission, and how can it leave an impact in the destination? What's the aspiration of the destination? What's the aspiration of the association? Where is that common area that you can both work together and make and leave a positive impact? How can the destination support you? Speak to your convention bureaus. That's what we're here for. How can we help you deliver the aims that you have as a result of your conference, but also the longer term aims that you have as an organization? Start early in the planning. I think that's for everybody at any point when they're putting a conference together. Work with the destination. You know, ask the destination how who are the key contributors locally that can contribute to help you. You know, if you've got that common area, who can you bring together to set some goals that will leave an impact longer term? And then our sort of ultimate wish list from the Madrid Challenge is to have associations and corporate legacy and sustainability requirements into their RFPs wherever they go in the world. So that's just a little, you know, a couple of points there that you might want to consider, a little introduction to best cities. I'll stop sharing now and hand over to David, who will tell you some of the wonderful things that Madrid is doing and some examples around legacy. So let me just stop share here, and then we can take questions at the end. I'll mute myself now.
Let me first of all say thank you to those of you who are here in the room with us. Thank you for trusting Madrid, our industry, and having a face-to-face meeting. I know there are many others hybrid, which is great. And Alushka, thank you very much for doing the conference here in Madrid, besides the figures we still have in all around. Thank you, Lesley, for the introduction. I think you really introduced the aim of the challenge and what we want to do as cities. I will just share with you a couple of examples to give you a kind of some ideas that you can do. It's great that we have a federation of tourist guide associations, which means each of you represents an association, I guess. Thank you. A lot of associations here with us, so each of you can do something with your associates. This is not my... Yeah, I'll wait. Well, as part of Best Cities, we have incorporated to our mission as Convention Bureau to foster that meetings, besides the economic impact, also develop a positive impact in our destination. So we know we have to count beds and direct in spending in our cities, but we also want the meeting planners really to try to generate a positive impact through their meetings. And this is one of our main objectives. Lesley defined...
I'm still here.
You introduced what we mean with legacy. Maybe you can...
Are we just waiting for your presentation?
Should I try? No.
You have to speak a little bit until we get the
I think just while we're waiting for the presentation, we're quite lucky in Best Cities. A lot of our destinations do understand legacy, but they're all at different levels. And one of the key things is we want to get all our destinations up to the high level, and Madrid is up there for sure. But some of the other destinations, so through the learning of what Madrid and Singapore and places like that are doing, it helps our other destinations do the same as well. But we want to spread the word so that we can help and support associations. And I think this is why, you know, when you are going to a destination with your own conference, do speak to the convention bureaus, get them to help you with the connections and make sure that you're meeting with the right people and the people that can help you achieve your aims. But there is no common language around legacy, and it's not one size fits all. So it's
This is
it's
not-
an ongoing discussion for sure.
I had it on screen before, but thank you, Lesley.
That's okay.
As I said, what we try is to support meeting planners, associations, but also corporates, if they want to, as I said, include legacy or sustainability in their meeting as a result of their meeting in our city. We have developed different tools that support you in the process of planning your conference so that you can incorporate them to your, let me just see if it's ready. Fine, thank you. So Lesley told you what legacy means. Here's another way of explaining it. It's that we plan actions based on the mission and vision that the organizer of a conference or convention has. So first of all, you have to have in your mission and vision as an association the objective of including legacy with the aim to generate perceptible, relevant, and lasting changes in the lives of the residents of the destination that hosts the meeting. That's why we said beyond the economic impact to generate social or environmental positive impact. What kind of actions are we talking about? It depends. It depends really on each association. So first of all, you have to identify what you can do and what your objectives are. But we can talk about disseminating relevant content beyond the Congress itself. This means you generate a lot of information in the conference room where you are, but maybe you can share this information with some groups in our city. You have to identify which would be interested in knowing all the content and all the information that you share. This is what we say, reaching out to the general population. Training on topic interests for social groups or visibility and dissemination campaigns. Obviously, sustainability actions. Your meeting can be more sustainable and we can help you identifying what you can do. And this would be great if even events can promote long-term changes, legislation, or even state investments. I will share with you two examples. These are two conferences. The first one is ESTRO, the European Society of Oncological Radiotherapy. We collaborated with ESTRO in a legacy project. ESTRO took place last year, and the aim was to implement information and dissemination actions on oncological radiotherapy. ESTRO identified that there was lack of information about oncological radiotherapy as a way of treating some types of cancer. So what we wanted was to improve the awareness of this medical discipline among patients, relatives of patients, doctors, technical personnel, to favor this technique in the treatment of some forms of cancer. We just gave the support to ESTRO and also to the local association, to the Spanish Society of Oncological Radiotherapy, to reach this objective. What did we do? This is one of the results of this project. It's our website. We supported both associations, the European and the Spanish associations, in the creation of this specific website. And even though this is in Spanish, you can identify that this website is directed or is aimed to give information to patients, to physicians, and also to families or relatives to patients about what this technique means. Because ESTRO identified that in Spain, the use of this technique was lower than in other countries, and maybe because there was a lack of information. So what we did is we just gave support in order to reach this objective. And this website is now running. It's a long-term project, obviously, and it gives information, as I said, to patients. What we also did related to ESTRO was we included here you see here this video. We included well-known persons in Spain. This is a very well-known journalist who talked about their experience being a cancer patient. With the Spanish Association for the Study of Menopause, we did other actions, obviously, because it was focused on their objectives. We did some academic legacy. We did educational meetings about prevention and female intimate care directed at women. So this was part of taking the content of the conference outside and talk to other groups of of our population. Social legacy. We produced a flyer aimed to experts to identify and advise on preventing menopause, and also environmental part. We make sure that the venue and the attendees had a strong environmental responsible commitment. But as you saw, these are really legacy projects. We can start a little bit before with small steps. We just can introduce some positive impact actions in our meeting. And therefore, we have developed a digital tour at Madrid Convention Bureau to support associations, but also corporates, to identify in which way their meeting can reduce the negative impact and increment the positive impact they leave on our city. Plus, which is a platform for legacy with us, is also aligned with the 17 United Nations SDGs. That means we will tell you through this platform, obviously before you organize a meeting, which one of these 17 SDGs in some way are affected through your meeting and how you can diminish the negative impact on this SDG or do a positive impact. This is just an example of the reports that you get. The tool offers you 3 types of reports. One sustainability report, which means you will identify in which way your meeting can be more sustainable, and we will give you examples of how you can reduce the negative impact. We also will give you a requirement to suppliers. This means what do you have to ask to your suppliers of your conferences in order that their service is less impactful. We also have a carbon footprint calculator, which you will use after your conference, so that you can calculate how the meeting did affect in the city, in this case in Madrid. And we have something very specific or very singular, which is a legacy lab. We call it Legacy Lab. We have identified still more than 30 local stakeholders, NGOs, associations, or foundations which work in the social and environmental areas that you can collaborate with if you want to develop a positive impact actions through these associations. So we have all this information, we can share it with you, and depending on what your objectives are, you can contact whatever foundations in order to collaborate with them and leave a positive impact in our city. And we also have a database of sustainable services, different companies that have services that are sustainable. Well, and what can you do as tourist guides? I don't know, this is something that you have to decide, but here are a couple of examples. Obviously, as Lesley said, you can include the goal of creating legacy in your entity's mission and vision. This should be the first step. Tour guides, you are the best ambassadors for our destination. You can make both visitors and the local population aware of the importance of acting responsibly. You are in contact with a lot of people. You can tell them in which way they can also be responsible. You can also collaborate with local NGOs. As I told you, we have a list of them to bring the stories and secrets of your cities closer to special groups. There are a lot of people who would love to have a tour with you and see what they don't know from their own cities, for example. And obviously, you can make your meetings more sustainable. These are just a couple of ideas. What we want to do with the Madrid Challenge and with this tool is just, well, ask you to include legacy, to include sustainability in your association's mission. And we, as destinations, we will collaborate you. We will give you the tools to generate this. I think we have time for some questions if you want. It was not that much of information, but I think it's just to give a general idea of what is our aim as best cities and also as Madrid Convention Bureau. Thank you very much.
Do we still have Lesley online?
Yes.
I'm here.
Thank you very much, David. A very informative presentation. Lesley, the first question for you is, you mentioned the destinations who are part of your forum. Who are those destinations? Which cities?
Our 12 destinations, you're testing my knowledge here to not forget somebody. It's Berlin, Cape Town, Copenhagen, Dubai, Dublin, Houston, Madrid, Melbourne, Singapore, Tokyo and Vancouver. That's our 11 destinations, and we hope to be announcing a 12th one just in the next couple of months.
Great, thank you. I believe that will be most helpful for many associations. We also had a little comment about, you mentioned no one size fits all, and I think this is important for our associations to know and to feel that they can participate. How big or small do your legacy projects have to be to make an impact?
They can be small or large. I mean, we did a report on actually measuring impact last year. We published it just last year, I think it was. And what we realized is that different associations are at different levels. There are those associations who want to change the world. They want to change policy. They want to make a difference in terms, particularly in the medical field. But there are smaller ones that have smaller aims, and it's absolutely fine. I think the key thing is recognizing what you could possibly do and being able to measure how successful you've been. And, you know, with tourism and tourist guides, I think there's a huge amount that you could do, you know, particularly around sustainability. I mean, teaching people responsible tourism and spreading that word and how to treat a destination with respect. I think that is, you know, it might be small in each destination that you go to, but that ripples out, and you have quite a big impact as a result of that.
And David, thank you for mentioning that tourist guides are ambassadors of the destinations. That is something that's really close to all of us and an important thing. On the 21st of February, we celebrate International Tourist Guide Day. And I believe a lot of what you've mentioned, David, is a really good opportunity for all of us to start with those small steps towards legacies in our destinations, working with the public, working with the destinations themselves as well. Really good opportunity on that specific day. David, another question was your tool. Is it available for everybody, or how can they access that tool? And also thank you for doing that tool. It will be very useful for many associations.
Yes, thank you very much. The tool is available for any meeting planner, corporate or associations who has a meeting that's going to be organized in Madrid. Obviously, we don't want you to use this tool for other cities, but as long as you plan to organize a meeting and in Madrid, we can give you access to this tool, and you just have to enter some data, which is very easy, so that you can get tailor-made reports. And what is important, that you have to use this tool in advance, obviously, 2, 3, 4 months in advance, so that you can plan and contract sustainably. And as Lesley said, anything that you do makes an impact. So start from simple things and grow.
Good. How many of you have heard of Legacy before, actually, or is this all very new to you as a matter of interest? All new to you? Yeah, you have a question? Great. The microphone's on the way. I think there's a lot of new information here that many have heard now for the first time, and I think it's important that they use that moving forward. Christina.
The Portuguese Tourist Guide Association. And I have a question, yes. So it's really interesting that you are planning in calculating the carbon footprint. And that's something that we are, of course, obviously all very interested in. But we are also interested to know, how do you compensate, to have suggestions? And because there are several tools for calculating the carbon footprint, but usually the compensations are quite blurred. Sometimes people say, or it's in the sites, for instance, ALSA, which is a very big transportation company in the Iberian Peninsula, they say they calculate, we may donate money to compensate, but we don't know where they're going to do this compensation. Some other sites say we are going to plant a forest in Ghana. I mean, then we don't actually know if they're going to do that or not. So are you planning, how are you planning in compensate? And well, that's basically my question.
With the carbon compensation, I think there are two ideas. First, our aim is that if you use our tool in advance, and if you do it right, which is easy because you have to follow what the recommendations, your footprint after the meeting will be lower than if you don't use it. So this is the first thing, you compensate locally because you just generate less carbon dioxide if you plan in advance and if you organize. And secondly, there will be a footprint, obviously. Our aim in our second phase this year is to give you tools to compensate locally. So we don't want you, and don't misunderstand me, that you plant a forest in wherever, do it in Madrid. Yes. So we will also give you ideas on how you can compensate your footprint in Madrid, being local, and what we say, doing this positive impact in our city or in our region.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much, David. A very nice question, Christina. I think that's it from our side. Thank you very much for your time today, David, Lesley. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time, and thank you for your guidance and assistance in the very quick rollout of our hybrid convention here in Madrid. So thank you very much.
And have a nice day in Madrid.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And that leads us on to our next presenter, and I will hand you over to our head of training, Viola Lewis, who will introduce our next speaker.